So hi, as promised, I'm back with another video. So this is my second video while I'm in the UK, and today I have decided to talk about gap year. So talking about me, I finished my class 12th in 2020, in the March of 2020, and I got my results by July. But as you know, 2020 was a weird year with COVID and all of that stuff happening all around. And initially, my plan was to come to the UK in the September of the year 2020 itself. And it was going all according to the plan until it wasn't because of COVID. And once COVID was there was no denying the fact that it was not going to be easy continuing with what I had previously planned. So, up until July, I was not able to decide what I was going to do. It was a completely uncertain time. There was one option, and that was to attend university completely online, but I wasn't looking forward to that because one, it would have been a boring experience because you're not getting what you paid for, and two, the university was not reducing the tuition fees at all, so I didn't think it was logical to pay that amount of tuition fees and yet not actually coming here to study. So after a lot of discussions with my parents and some of my friends, and mainly with myself, I finally came to the decision that I should just take 1 year off. Now, I know that in India, taking a year off or taking a gap year, especially right after class 12th, is not something that is looked favorably upon. But thankfully, my parents were really, really okay with it. They were really cool with it. So were my friends who actually supported my decision. And because of COVID, there was no denying the fact that it was going to be difficult if I tried to avoid taking that gap year. So now I've told you my reason for taking the gap year. Now let's talk about, do I think it was actually worth it that taking a year off and then coming to university? And if I were to give the answer in just one word, I would say definitely. The reason being, I got to do so many different things that I don't think I would have done if I hadn't taken that gap year. For instance, this YouTube channel. I I would have never thought that I would make a YouTube channel. I don't think, at least, that I would have started it if I hadn't taken a gap year and if I had directly come to university or started university from home, whatever. Two, during the gap year, I did a year-long job at a company called Lido Learning, which in my opinion was an extremely important part for me, and it is going to be an important factor as I go forward in life because that helped me understand what having a real job actually is like. Granted, it wasn't anything compared to a real job because I used to teach students from the comfort of my home, that but I am proud to say that I had a job even before I started university or even before I started college, and that was definitely a huge plus point. Number three, I got to spend some more time at home because, as you may or may not know, I spent 6 years at a boarding school from class 7th to class 12th, and if I had directly come to university, I would have just been at home for like about 3 months and then come to university, which I didn't have a lot of problem with because I was used to staying away from home for a long time. But looking back, I think it was a really good opportunity for me to actually stay at home and be with my family a little bit longer. Another thing is, uh, because of the gap year, I could apply to some other universities as well. Granted, I ended up coming to Manchester itself, but the gap year also allowed me to apply to the universities in the US and to some other top universities in the UK as well. So looking back, I think taking the gap year was a good decision for me. Now let's talk about you. Should you take a gap year? Now in my case, I had an extremely valid reason for taking that gap year, which was the pandemic. Um, but you as well might have your own reasons. For example, someone in your family has taken ill, you have not been able to get the grades you wanted, or you weren't accepted at the universities that you wanted to go to, and there might be many more reasons, and it completely depends. Even if you don't have a reason, taking a gap year sometimes might work brilliantly in your favor. Let's take the US college application system for instance. For example, if you want to apply to the top universities in the US, let's say Harvard or Stanford, but you think that you do not have a good enough profile, that your extracurriculars are not good enough to get into such high universities, taking a gap year and actually building on your resume, actually building on your activities, actually spending time on yourself might help improve your application. And then when you send it a year later, maybe they might accept you. Now, of course, now that I've talked about some of the pros of taking a gap year, I would also like to talk about many cons that come along with taking a gap year. For example, taking a gap year will leave a year's gap on your resume or on your CV, and that usually does not look good when employers are hiring you, or even when colleges are taking decisions on whether to accept you. But if you're able to justify the reason, like in my case, I took up a job, or if in your case you did something else, or there was a reason, there was an unavoidable reason for which you took the gap year, or if you can show that you did something very productive, you did something that helped build you as a person, the employers or the college admissions counselors will overlook it. So again, if you cannot justify your gap year, it is a major no. Another con of taking a gap year is that even if you set out thinking that you are going to do something, for example, you decided that you're going to be starting your own startup during that gap year, but for example, even 1 month into your gap year, you might lose that confidence, you might lose some faith in yourself, and you might change your plans. You'll just sit at home doing nothing, and that will work out really bad, because you're then wasting a complete year of your life, and 1 year in your life will be very valuable, at least at this age point. So now let me talk about some things that you can yourself do during your gap year to improve yourself as a person and or to build your resume as well. One thing you can do is obviously apply jobs that accept high school graduates. For example, you can do part-time jobs, you can work as a tutor. This not only pays you, but will also help build your character and will give you real experience on how work is done. Another thing you can do is actually travel. In my case, traveling was not actually an option because of, COVID. But in your case, you might actually be able to travel during a gap year, and you might think that traveling will not look quite good, and it may seem that you just took the year for traveling, but that's completely fine. Even people know that traveling actually builds you as a person, and it's not only something that you do for fun, but it's something that helps build character, that helps build personality, and that gives you confidence as well. Another thing you can do is take online courses, take classes in your area, learn something that you haven't learned before, for example, coding. Me personally, I try to do it a lot, but I always found some way to procrastinate it. I just couldn't do it. But if coding is something you like, you might actually be able to have fun with it, and at the same time get that skill set of coding, which in today's world, as you are completely aware, is an extremely fundamental thing to be having. Now again, these are only some of the things that you can do. If you go to Google, I'm thinking about writing a blog on this as well, you'll find an extreme amount of things that you could actually do during a gap year, and that might actually look good on your CV or your resume. One final piece of advice that I'd like to give is don't take a gap year just because others are doing it. So if you do not have a reason right now of taking a gap year, just don't. If you do not have a reason, if you don't have a set out plan already, then I don't think there's actually any point in taking a gap year, because it is always a better choice to go to college as soon as you finish your class 12. But again, if you have a plan, if the reasons are unavoidable, you can take a gap year and it won't hurt anything. So again, that was a short video on taking a gap year, the big question. But yeah, so that's it from my end. If you like the video, please like it. It helps push my video according to the YouTube algorithm. So if you like it, it will come upon people's timelines and it will help me get views. Also, please subscribe to the channel as well. Even that, according to YouTube's algorithm, helps get new viewers into my channel. So again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again very soon.